His name was Vic Greco.
Still in the game?
No, I don't think so. And I don't. He's in New Jersey or New York.
Huh.
And but a very funny man, and he made me laugh. And he was. They said he was like Ned Sparks. If you remember that, a guy with a cigar. He was always very sour face.
Uh-huh.
And it made me laugh. And eventually, we got an agent, and we, just developed from there.
Did you do the show?
The show, they never did it. We did our own show.
Yeah.
And then we started working the coffee houses in the village,
together.
Which was the big thing. Yeah, we'd get up and we just do sketches, which was, I guess, it was unusual. We never talked to the audience.
So like the Bottom Line and what else was down the village? The Village Gate or anything like that?
Oh, the Village Gate. We played the Gaslight.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Bob Dylan played.
Yeah. Who was around the scene then? So
I think Bob Dylan was working there, Peter, Paul, and Mary.
You saw them?
No. Who did I see? A lot of folk singers and
not many comedians. Was Woody Allen walking?
I'm trying to think.
Yeah,
he was, but I think we were a little after him.
Yeah. So was this like 69 or?
Oh no, earlier than that. It was the early middle 60s.
So it must have been pretty crazy down there.
It was great. It was just a great time. We played in a little club called the Cafe Chino, which I thought was named after cappuccino or something. The guy's name was Joe Chino. And every week he'd do an original little one-act play. It's a tiny, and now it's a restaurant. You go and it's a little tiny place, but they did a one-act plays, or we do our sketches.
Get good response?
Oh, great. We had very kind of offbeat stuff, new stuff.
Do you remember any of it?
Oh, yeah. I'm still pulling some of it out and doing it places.
Really?
Little... Well, we had one that's easy to describe. I would come out and say to the audience, or I'd just say, I've put my wristwatch on my ankle, and I'm going to wait to have someone come by and get them to ask me what time it is.
Yeah.
So I'll pull up my pant leg and say, oh, look, it's 4:30, and here comes the guy now. And the guy came by, he's waiting for a bus. I'd say, gee, it's a nice time of day. It's getting darker. Yeah. I said, I'm waiting for this bus. Is it late? Yeah, I don't know. I said, what time's the bus supposed to come? Supposed to be here at 5. And finally I said, look, do you have any idea what time it is now? And he pulled up his pant leg, and his watch was, it's 4:15, and that was the blackout.
Yeah.
And we did some stuff in clubs. I remember one club we auditioned, and afterwards he said to our manager, it's obscure humor. They're doing obscure humor. Because also at the time, there were popular. It was after Martin and Lewis. So there were a lot of acts where the guy played a trumpet. And then the other guy did the comedy. Hey, hold on there. What are you doing?
So you got a wacky guy and a straight guy.
So I think one of our problems was neither one of us was the wacky guy. They're just little sketches.
Right. It wasn't a team dynamic. It was just vignettes.
In one sketch, I'd be the dumb guy, and then another sketch.
Sure.
And then
so it was hard to sell that act as a nightclub act in some way.
It was, and we would go into a club and bomb, and go to the next club and just be great. We went into the old Hungry Eye in San Francisco. And
so you really toured with this. So you guys, okay.
And at the time, there were only about 6 comedy clubs. There was the Hungry Eye in San Francisco, the Gate of Horn in Chicago. All these places are gone now. The Bitter End in New York, which is still
there, kind of.
And there are 5 or 6 others, and we'd make that tour.
And the two of you, and you did what? You had like about an hour or what?
Yeah.
And
we
didn't
improvise at all. We'd open for some acts. Other times, other acts would open for us.
Huh? And you don't remember who was around or any of those opening acts or
Miriam Makeba? Does that mean?
Yeah, sure.
She very pretty, kind of African.
Yeah, she's a folk singer, right?
Yeah, I think she passed away.
Yeah.
And one day, this is not a censored show. I just want to tell you what we were in Washington, D.C. in a club. We were rehearsing, and we were very ambitious. We go into a club, and we opened one night.
Yeah.
And the next day, we're in the club coming up with new material, and a guy came in, and he was watching us. He kept watching us, and he said, I loved your show last night. I said, oh, yeah, it was pretty funny. He said, I love that Miriam Makeba. I said, oh, yeah, she was good. He said, I'd really like to fuck her. We said, oh, yeah, well, she was very good. I mean, we thought he was there to watch our show. So anyway.
Like you were going to say, like, okay, let me go get her.
Yeah, we'll put in a word for you. But we'd go in a club that the Smothers Brothers had played in. And I'd seen their act, and they were so good with music. And I felt, geez, all we did is these sketches. But people still will come up to me and remember. We had a sketch where 2 mathematicians were having coffee and talking about Bernoulli's theory of physics and talking about the big convention of mathematicians. And the last year it was wonderful because Professor So-and-so requested once, twice, 3 times a lady. That was one. But then it turns out we're time to pay the check. Let's split the check.
Yeah.
And it was $24.50, and we couldn't figure out what half of $24.50 was.
Yeah.
So we left a tip. We'll leave 10%, and we walked out, and the waitress comes out and says, "Professors, oh dear, they left me $100." You know, it was
yeah, dumb guys.
and I'd forgotten that, but someone reminded me of it. And you know, I'm still part of a sketch troupe. My wife and I run it. We just did a show last night at the Second City Theater in Hollywood. And about once a month, we have a group of about 40 people, and at any one time there's 15, 20, and we do an evening of sketches. And every once in a while, someone will remind me to say, "You know, I saw you in the Village. Remember that thing you did about the mathematicians?" I said,
really?
"No, I don't remember." Then I'd think about it, and then I'd rewrite it, and we'll do it, and then they go over very well. We did one last night that I pulled out of the thing. It's a ship, you know, one of those ships where they're all rowing, heaving. There's a guy whipping them.
Yeah, it's a slave ship, I think.
A slave ship. And the guy said, heave.
Yeah.
So we say, it's time to mutiny. Are you ready? Are you with me? We're going to take over the ship. So mutiny, we grab the slave driver, we tie him up, and we get back to the oars, and everyone's out of focus. You know, heave, ho. No, you've got to pull together. Land is 1 mile north by northeast. So I said, well, look, we need someone to lead us. I cannot do it. Who can? And someone says, let's set him to it, the guy who was whipping us. So we let him free, and he starts whipping us. And I say, free, we're free at last. But it's a good audience, you know, it's a strong piece.
Sure. And that was something you wrote with Greco?
Actually, it was something I did in a next group. I went to Second City in Chicago for a year.
So you toured, you started New York.
We toured for a couple of years, and it's tough when you're working with one guy. Now, you work alone.
Yeah.
So when you go off the stage, if you bombed, I don't know, you probably very seldom bomb, but if you do, you probably hopefully say, it was the audience. Or, it's, you know, screw it, you have friends. Yeah. If it's a 2-man team, you kind of think the other guy screwed up. Why did you screw up?
So it gets tense.
Yeah.
So you needed more people to blame.
Yeah. So eventually... we broke up. Yeah. Now, I wrote all the material.
Oh, there you go.
I wrote all the material, and we never wrote it down, and we did it. But he was unhappy. He had a wife and kids, and he had a lot of responsibilities. We broke up. I got hired to go to Second City. It's a long story. We went in. I went in an audition with Robert Klein.
How big was Second City then? I mean,
it wasn't as big as it is today. It had opened on Broadway. It got a big acclaim. Alan Arkin, Barbara Harris, Severin Darden.
Was Ed Asner involved? Or
that was before that.
Okay.
Shelley Berman and Ed Asner was called the Compass Players.
Okay.
I did not know them, but in the early 60s, they came to Broadway.
With a review.
And it was the smartest stuff you'd ever seen.
You saw it?
Oh, my God.
Alan Arkin was in it?
Alan Arkin, Barbara Harris. Smart. They all had beards, and they were talking about...
but it was all comedy.
All comedy.
Because Alan Arkin is hilarious.
Oh, yeah. And so eventually they were casting, and one year I teamed up with another guy to try to get the old act going. It wasn't working the same.
Same bits?
Yeah. And they'd...
was there moments where you're like, I miss Greco?
Oh, my God, yeah.
Yeah.
No one else was as funny.
Because he kind of built the groove.
He just didn't want to work with
me.
So I went down to audition for Second City. They'd seen us when we'd been in Chicago.
Yeah.
So they went, and I told my agent, I can't do that stuff. It's very bright. It's talk about Kierkegaard and
too smart.
So I went down. Luckily, I just hit a vein there where I got up. They get 2 of us up. We improvised, and they offered me a job. And of course, well, I'm not sure. I don't. I'm doing something else. So they gave me a week to think about it, and I went begrudgingly, and had the greatest time of my life. I went for 6 months, and then they extended me for another 6 months with Robert Klein.
So this was the crew.
Bob Klein, yeah. David Steinberg.
Wow, from Canada.
Yeah,
mm-hmm.
Who's still he's a
director
now.
Yeah.
And Bob Klein's still doing comedy.
You talk to Robert Klein still?
Not as much as I'd like to. He lives in New York. I'm a big fan. I love him.
Who else was in that crew?
No one you'd know of. Sandra Karen, who's living in England. Judy Grobart, wonderful. She was like an Elaine May, very goofy, funny. And she married a guy named Bob Dishy, a former Second City guy. Then I went back to New York.
What year was that now? Where were we at?
This was 70.
Okay, so Klein had not done stand-up yet.
No, and I influenced him. He would, in the dressing room, he would do these funny bits. He'd always do it, Get to Be Christmas, and he'd lean up against the wall and say, "What is Christmas to me? I got no mother, I got no father." James Dean.
Yeah.
and he'd make me laugh, and every night I'd come in and, Bob, Christmas, are you looking forward to Christmas? It's like a kid.
You're setting him up,
Christmas, what is Christmas to me?
Yeah.
And then he'd expand it. So one day I said, Bob, he was Bob then.
Yeah.
I guess it was another Bob Klein.
Oh.
And so he had to change his name eventually to Robert, and he told a very funny story. He was an struggling actor's story. Got a call, Bob, you've got to come in. I've been looking for you. Where are you?
Yeah.
Where have you been? So he said, oh, okay. So he went to the agent's office. She looked at me. She said, oh, no, I meant Bob Klein.
The other.
The other Bob Klein. And I would say, Bob, you must do this on stage, because I couldn't do stand-up. I'm very easy in sketch. I'm awkward in stand-up. I said, you got to do stand-up. Yeah, he says, I tried it. And so about a year or two later, I went back, and he was in a play called The Apple Tree. And I went out with him to the Stage Deli.
Yeah.
And I said, Bob, what have you ever done about your stand-up? He said, funny you ask. Jack Rollins, the manager, is managing me, and he wants me to do stand-up. In fact, I'm going down to the Improv tonight to do it. Come on down
on
to
44th Street, the original Improv.
Bud Friedman. So where not Ethel Merman, Bette Midler was a waitress.
Sure. And Andy Kaufman was probably there at that time, or maybe a little before him, huh? Because they still had a cabaret sort of feel, right? At that time, were there singers still?
Yeah, waitresses would get up and sing.
Oh, boy.
And I don't know if Andy... I
think it was before his
more
time.
aware of Andy Kaufman in L.A. at the Improv.
It's amazing how much you've seen. So you sort of influenced Robert Klein a little bit to do stand-up.
Yeah.
And at Second City now... before you went to Second City, you were primarily working from scripted material, and now you're sort of known as one of the great improvisers.
Yeah,
so where did that happen?
Well, at Second City, everyone's improvised. So then I got a call. They were putting together a comedy group, and I was in an off-Broadway play now in the Village, Little Murders, which was directed by Alan Arkin.
So you worked with him.
I worked with him. As a director, he was such a great director. He'd sit there. He's very non-committal. He'd look at the stuff. He said, "This is a great show." He said, "I don't care what he says. Fuck the critics. It's a great show." And about 3 weeks in rehearsal, he said, "I don't know what to do. We're ready to open." Yeah, and someone had to leave to do something. Go. We're ready. And I loved him. He was so supportive. And one night, at a preview, Mike Nichols came in. Now, this is the peak of Mike Nichols. It was now directing.
So The Graduate?
There, yeah. I think he just done Catch-22.
So it was like 1971 or something?
71 is when it was.
Okay.
Yeah. And he came to see it, and we were at a party afterwards, and Mike Nichols came up to me. And he said, "Hey, I really enjoyed your stuff. Where have you been?" And I said, "Well, I've been doing sketch stuff." He said, "Yeah, I really enjoyed your performance. In this one scene, have you thought of being more... something like concise?" And I said, "That's a good idea. I'll think about it." I didn't know what he meant. So the next day, I said to Alan, as a rehearsal, I said, "Mike Nichols said, should I be more concise?" Thinking Alan would say, "Oh, of course." He's, "How dare Mike Nichols give you a direction? I'm the director. You're doing it just right." So I said, boy, does he have confidence. So anyway, I got into a group they were getting together down at the Bitter End.
Yeah.
Called the Ace Trucking Company. I said, "Yeah, that'll be fun. We're going to do sketches after the show at midnight." I said, "That's great, because I'm doing this play right down the street. I still have some sketch ideas from Second City." So we get up and we do these sketches that I would come up with the sketches, but the guys in the group were so funny. They'd flesh them out, and then we'd improvise. And I guess that's how but then we started getting jobs, and the guy who I'm failing with names here, Dave Fry. Remember Dave Fry?
I don't know if
he did. He was right, the Nixon.
Oh yeah.
He was famous for the Nixon.
Right.
His manager came to see us.
Yeah.
And we were thrilled, and he took us over. Managers got us on the Sullivan Show. We didn't even have a name, and we
How many were there of you?
There were 4 guys and a girl.
Isn't that amazing that happened on late night television?
Yeah,
because you would never see that now. That Ed Sullivan would say, "Now here's a group of kids.
Yeah,
they're doing a little thing and whatever."
There were no. But we started. Then there were a whole bunch of improv sketch groups.
I know,
with funny names.
Oh my God!
New York Stickball Company, Outer Space Baseball.
I had no idea.
Yeah. And we did it. We did very well. We did Sullivan. We got on the Tom Jones Show, and this went on for several. We would do a show, It'd be like 40 minutes of set material. Then we'd open up for improvs. We'd ask for